Hey guys, how are you doing? In today's drill, we're going to see several nuances, and it's very specific to advanced candidates. And that's the reason why this is one of my favorites, because I love the nuances and I love the advanced stuff and teaching it to advanced candidates. Alright? So, the case question here is a large retail bank in the US has hired you to help them deal with a problem they're having. They believe their branches are too crowded. So what's weird here is there is no case question. There's a problem, but there is no question. The interviewer doesn't even ask you what you would do. He just sits there. So obviously the first step here is to define the case question. So think for a while how you would do that, what questions you would ask, and then watch me do it. And then you can compare the answers and see if you would be able to define the case question here too. But before I do that, I want to comment on something else. So some of you might think, well, this is weird. This looks like a framework question more than like a hypothesis testing question because it starts the case or because it's not a follow-up question or something like that. And some of you might think, no, this is a hypothesis testing question because it's very, very specific. And the truth is, there is a very large gray area between framework questions and hypothesis testing questions, and many of the actual MBB questions are going to fall into that gray area, because if the question is not very specific, then you can always use a framework. So they always try to bring it either into the gray area or into the hypothesis testing area, alright? And it actually doesn't matter whether it's a framework question or a hypothesis testing question, because in the end both have to follow a principle, which is the answer has to be a plan to solve a problem in real life, like you would do in a consulting problem, in a consulting project. And consultants never stop to think, well, is this a framework or is this a hypothesis testing problem? Because it doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is they have to solve that problem. And they don't even use this terminology. We created it. Okay? So this is how I would define this question. So the problem definition here. 1. Why is this a problem? So is it because customers are unsatisfied? Is it because the churn rate is increasing? Why is this a problem? Why is this affecting us? And why do you want it solved? And next, what does the client want my help with? So do they want me to increase customer satisfaction with those services? Do they want me to decrease the churn rate? Do they want me to get people out of the branches? Or do they want me to only figure out why branches are so crowded? So after getting those answers, I would say, all right, so I was hired to help my client figure out if way too crowded branches are driving customer satisfaction down, and if it is, they want me to bring it back to normal levels. Is that correct? And then the interviewer would say, you are correct, you can move on. So again, the first thing I want to do is define my problem and define my hypothesis into a cause, an effect, and a consequence. Okay? So the potential causes for this is branch employees became inefficient, services that did not require going to the branch suddenly require that, or some issue common to many clients made them go to their branches. There are also other things that could be causing this, like a sudden reduction in branch size. So like maybe they needed to put an area that's not accessible to customers in there, and so the space got reduced and branches are more crowded or something like that. We are going to do a little quick structured brainstorming for this when we're actually structuring our answer. Now, the effect is branches are too crowded, and the consequence is customers are thus unsatisfied with the crowded branch and possibly with having to go to the branch if we did something wrong that made them have to go to the branch and that therefore the branch are crowded. Okay? So the way I would do this, and just to be clear here, you could and you could not show this part to the interviewer. I do this because it makes my thoughts clearer. It's fine if you don't show it to the interviewer. I probably would not, but it would be okay. So the questions that I want to ask here are: one, are the branches really too crowded? Two, are customers unsatisfied with crowded branches and or with having to go there? So are they too crowded? Are clients upset that they're too crowded? Why are the branches suddenly more crowded? So what's going on? And what can we improve? How can we improve customer satisfaction given this? And the reason this last question is structured like that is that it's not necessarily getting people out of the agencies, but it's probably that way. So to know if branches are really too crowded, I need to see people per day per square meter, but only divided by those square meters accessed by customers, and that versus competition and over time. And if possible, I'd like to check that per hour to see if there are peaks that are too crowded. Maybe it's not in the total number of people per day, but maybe in some peaks. Okay, and I'd like to see how that evolved over time to see if it was always the problem or if it just became a problem right now. We could probably easily count people in our branches with our employees, maybe even with security, and would probably need to get someone in competitors' agents, in competitors' branches, to count people in there. Okay, and we just choose a few and do that by sample. Next, to find out if customers are unsatisfied, I would do customer research regarding experience in branch versus competition. So I could get my employees to ask customers how they feel about that. I'd probably start with qualitative research to understand what's going on, and then move on to an net promoter score or something like that to see if customers are happy or unhappy with that. And I'd compare it with competition by getting by putting people doing research outside of competition branches. And if possible, I'd like to check this against these results before the problem started if we do this research on a regular basis. So maybe we're already researching experience in branch, satisfaction with experience in branch. That would be great. If that's not possible, that's okay. Next, why are branches suddenly more crowded? So I check if employees suddenly became less efficient, and the way I do that is I would try to figure out how many processes or how many services branches are doing per employee per day, and I'd compare that with before this problem started. So it could be that we are now, the mix of services changed and now we're doing more complex services. It could be that we changed our employees and now they're more inefficient, or it could be that we changed something like the software of something and then they're inefficient because of that. Many things could have happened, but first I want to see if they are indeed less efficient. Okay, and next I try to see if services that did not require to the branch suddenly require that. So maybe you didn't need to go to the branch to I don't know, upgrade your account or something like that, but now you do, and that's why there's so many people there. Or maybe there's some issue common to many clients that made them go to the branches. Maybe we caused that issue with something that we made that made clients go to the branches, or maybe we didn't cause that. Maybe that's a government issue, and the government for some reason required people to go to their branches. We need to find that out, what's causing them to go there, okay? And or else, of course, there are all those other things that I mentioned, like, for example, we suddenly have less space in the branches or something like that, okay? And how can we improve customer satisfaction given this? Number one, I could solve the problem that drove customers to branches. I could increase employees' efficiency even if that didn't cause the customers to go to branches. And I could do that by training them, or I could do that by getting more efficient employees or something like that, okay? And I could automate processes. So I could either have customers do their services in ATM machines or something like that, or I could automate back office processes and have my employees do them quicker. So customer sits in front of them and they only have to press 2 or 3 buttons instead of pressing several buttons, calling people, deciding stuff on the spot. Okay? And next, I could have more services done online. So people could do those services online rather than going to branches, and I could even incentive them to go for online services by charging less for that or something like that. Okay? This was my answer for this. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.